Thank you. And just getting back here to the story of Andy and the inspiration behind your Healing the World. And what we were discussing as we return here is that at 2 years old, Edgar's son Andy was a perfectly healthy child. And then he did this wonderful commercial. He was getting introduced to the world so they could see his beautiful, happy face, and they were all falling in love with him. And about 6 weeks later, he started losing his sight. He started complaining that his hands were hurting and his joints were starting to hurt, and the doctors wrote it off as growing pains. But when he lost his sight, you couldn't write it off anymore. It's just something that was going to go away.
Right.
So as a biochemist, you had studied and dedicated your life to finding diseases and cures for them. And here it was happening to your son. And with Andy, what was that intuition or that little aha moment? Because where do you even know where to begin?
Amy, it is a disposition again. When I was studying for biochemist, I read one of the most interesting theses, doctoral thesis.
Thesis, okay. Doctoral thesis, okay.
I read this thesis of Linus Pauling.
Oh, yeah.
I was in Stanford University at the Bergman Molecular Institute, and I read that thesis, and I'm talking about more than 25 years ago, so
wow.
It was a long time ago. And I read an amazing thing, the body. The body is like a puzzle, you know?
Yes.
Well, it is conformed with more than 300 trillion cells.
300 trillion cells.
And
wow.
everything starts with just one.
Yeah.
Just one. This is
the
people who believes in God. This is one of the big miracles of God, right?
Yeah.
Provide one molecule that can transform in more than 3 trillion cells in our body.
It's almost incomprehensible.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And the most interesting thing is that every cell has information to do something important. To produce hair, skin, memory, energy, everything you want. That's
from
the
that
miracle.
One cell.
From everything starts from just one cell. But the interesting thing is when I saw that, well, my son couldn't produce a protein, a kind of cells that can connect his brain with his body. So
it was a protein.
It's a protein.
He couldn't produce
because
protein.
those 3 trillion of cells are proteins.
Okay.
And they work pretty fast. We produce about 56 million of chemical reactions every second. So
wait. 56 million chemical reactions
every second
are going in our body.
It's when you try to think something or to fix everything. I mean, to try to repair a cell, to try to speak, to try to produce an emotion. Everything is a chemical reaction that is produced with proteins.
Okay.
So if I start to work with 3 trillion cells, for me, I need 3 trillion lives to understand that.
Yeah.
So I try to modify my theory, and I start to work in proteins, because every cell is thousands and thousands of chain proteins.
Okay.
And I start to work with proteins, and I try to find different sources of protein. Well, to make it easy, everything I saw when I look the mirror, and everybody who looks a mirror, all that you can see in that mirror is proteins in your body, right? Even so many other things that you can see, okay? So what we try to do to help Andy is just to try to find what kind of proteins he couldn't metabolize to transform the cortical and carnosine in his brain, to try to reconnect his brain with the rest of his body. We start to work with proteins of so many different kinds. But this is a long history. So
when you talk about proteins of different kinds, any function that goes on in the body is done by a protein?
Absolutely.
So we can't even put a number to how many proteins there are?
Oh, we don't know.
Okay.
billions or trillions of proteins that can be conformed in our body. But we have a basic a basic amount of proteins that we can start. So we try to find proteins to provide Andy these proteins and provide him the
necessary
the supplies or the inventory or the collagens to rebuild his body.
Okay, so his body was breaking down.
Yeah,
He couldn't regenerate, so
Absolutely.
he was just slowly deteriorating.
It is an autoimmune disease.
So
The
attacking.
responsible to rebuild himself, now he was the responsible to destroy him.
Okay.
Can be clear with that?
So I'll just just so the thing that instead of growing his cells and regenerating, his body was attacking itself
Absolutely.
and destroying itself.
Yeah,
So it turned on itself. Instead of where he should have been growing, he was slowly dying.
absolutely.